Ever notice how the guy who barely passed high school is now your boss, and you, the one who actually studied, are the one bringing him coffee? Yeah, welcome to Earth. The only planet where intelligence is treated like a liability and ignorance comes with a corner office. See, we were told if we study hard, follow the rules, and play nice, success will come knocking. Turns out success got drunk, missed your address, and ended up at Chad's house, the guy who thinks, why, fee is a new diet plan. Somewhere along the way, the world flipped upside down. Smart people are stuck explaining things to people who don't even believe in explanations. The workers know how everything functions, while the rulers can't even find the on button, the truth. The game was rigged. The so-called leaders don't lead. They just own the people who actually know what they're doing. Smart people build things. Stupid people sell them, tax them, and then claim credit for inventing them. You ever notice how the world convinced us that the golden ticket to success was a shiny diploma and a head full of knowledge? Yeah. Turns out that ticket was non-refundable and expired the moment you graduated. They told us, go to school, work hard, and you'll make it big. What they didn't tell us is that making it big actually means working for someone who barely made it through school. It's a beautiful little scam. You spend your life chasing education, and by the time you've got your degree, someone who once asked you for help in math class is now signing your paycheck. You study, you stress, you take out loans the size of a small nation's debt, and you finally get that degree. You hang it on the wall like it's a Medal of Honor, but really, it's more like a participation trophy in a game you didn't know was rigged. Because while you were burning the midnight oil learning about business strategy, the real businessmen were out there learning how to golf. You studied ethics, they studied networking. You learned principles, they learned loopholes. And guess which skill pays better? Spoiler, it's not ethics. Every generation repeats the same lie to the next. Just work hard, play by the rules, and you'll be rewarded. Yeah, right? The only thing you get for playing by the rules is a smaller piece of the pie and a polite thank you note from the guy who owns the bakery. The truth is, the system was never built to reward intelligence. It was built to use it. The smart people designed the machines, the systems, the apps, the policies, and the knots. So smart people use those inventions to get rich and tell the creators what to do next. You ever see an engineer trying to explain a project to a manager? It's like watching a scientist describe quantum physics to a parrot. The engineer's talking about code structures and functionality, and the manager's nodding like, yes, I totally understand, but can you make it more blue? The engineer's thinking about logic, the manager's thinking about the color scheme. Yet somehow, the one thinking about colors gets the bonus check at the end of the quarter. And let's talk about that cubicle life. The people with the brains, the degrees, and the ideas are all sitting in little gray boxes, typing away under fluorescent lights that make everyone look like they've been awake since 1987. Meanwhile, upstairs, behind glass walls, there's a guy with a Bluetooth headset pacing around, talking loudly about synergy and market potential. You know what his biggest daily problem is? Deciding between oat milk or almond milk in his coffee. But his paycheck could fund a small moon landing. You see, education gives you knowledge, but it doesn't give you power. Power comes from ownership, connections, and audacity. 3 things they never teach in school, because if they did, the schools would go out of business. The education system is designed to create employees, not bosses. It's a factory that turns creative minds into compliant workers. They don't want you thinking too big. They want you thinking just enough to do your job, stay quiet, and not question why your CEO makes 400 times more than you. And that's the tragic comedy of it all. The people who actually understand how the world works are too busy working to take over the world. The ones who don't understand it, they're the ones running it. The smart people are in the labs, the libraries, the offices, solving problems, building systems, writing code. The stupid ones are in the boardrooms, creating the problems in the first place. It's a perfect cycle. They break it. You fix it. They take credit. You'd think intelligence would be rewarded, right? But no. Being smart is like being the janitor at a circus. You keep everything clean, functional, and safe, but nobody claps for you. They clap for the clown, the guy throwing pies at his own face. The world loves confidence more than competence. You can have all the knowledge in the world, but if you don't know how to say it with swagger, someone dumber will say it louder and get paid for it. It starts early, too. From kindergarten on, we're trained to obey the system. Raise your hand. Stay in line. Don't question the teacher. It's not education, it's conditioning. You learn to fit in, not to stand out, and by the time you graduate, you're fluent in compliance. Then you enter the workforce. And the same people who told you to follow rules tell you to think outside the box. But you can't, because the box is now your desk, your routine, your paycheck. Meanwhile, the so-called stupid ones, they were skipping class, making connections, selling sneakers, starting weird little side hustles that turned into businesses. They didn't care about grades. They cared about guts. And that's the punchline. The system punishes risk takers in school and rewards them in life. It's like the universe has a sense of humor, a dark one. Ever had a boss who doesn't understand the thing you do but still wants to improve your workflow? You're there explaining why their brilliant idea violates the laws of physics. And they're like, I don't need details, just make it happen. Sure, boss, let me just rewrite the laws of gravity while I'm at it. But you can't argue because they're not paid to understand. They're paid to decide. That's the dangerous part. We live in a world where decision-making and understanding are divorced. The thinkers don't decide, and the deciders don't think. And the cruelest joke, the people who invent technology are being replaced by the technology they invented. Smart people spent decades building automation, AI, and efficiency systems. Now, the bosses are using those systems to fire them. Imagine working your whole life to make things faster and smarter, only to get a memo saying, you've been replaced by the thing you built. Great job, genius. It's like building your own executioner and then complimenting his outfit. We treat intelligence like a burden. Oh, you're too analytical, they say. You overthink things. Yeah, because thinking is kind of the point. But in this world, thinking slows down profit, and profit is God. So we've built a culture where it's better to act fast and fail publicly than think deeply and move wisely. The smart people are backstage, cleaning up the mess left by the reckless ones who made headlines. And let's not forget the debt trap. The smartest people are also the most broke. Because education isn't just expensive, it's financially crippling. You spend years learning about economics while being buried in debt you can't economically escape. Meanwhile, some guy who sells motivational t-shirts on TikTok is driving a Lamborghini with "Hustle Hard" written on the license plate. The irony is so strong you could power a city with it. The smart ones innovate, the stupid ones invest, and guess who wins? You can create something brilliant, but if you don't have the capital or charisma to push it, someone dumber with a better smile will buy it from you for peanuts and make millions. And you'll be left saying, but I built it. And they'll say, yeah, and I marketed it. The world doesn't reward creation, it rewards control. In meetings, you'll see it all the time. The smartest person in the room speaks last, carefully, thoughtfully, choosing every word. The stupidest person speaks first, confidently, loudly, with absolutely no idea what they're talking about. And everyone goes, wow, such leadership. Meanwhile, the smart one's sitting there wondering how society hasn't collapsed yet. But that's the secret. Society runs on the unpaid emotional labor of smart people pretending not to notice how dumb their leaders are. It's why innovation feels like babysitting. The bright minds of the world are constantly trying to protect humanity from itself. Scientists are developing cures, engineers are fixing infrastructure, teachers are shaping minds, and the rulers are on TV arguing about who smiled wrong at a debate. The people who actually make the world function are invisible. The people who break it get book deals. The workplace is the perfect reflection of this absurdity. The worker bees are overqualified, underpaid, and overworked. The leaders are overconfident, overfunded, and underqualified. It's like someone flipped the script of evolution, survival of the dumbest. The less you understand, the higher you climb. Because understanding means responsibility and stupidity means freedom. And let's be honest, the bosses don't even pretend anymore. They'll look right at you and say, we couldn't do this without you. Translation, we literally couldn't, but we'll take the credit anyway. And you'll smile, nod, and go back to fixing the mess they made because you've got rent to pay and a diploma to justify. The truth is, being smart in this world is like having a high-end sports car in a city full of potholes. You've got all this potential, all this horsepower, but you can't go anywhere without wrecking something. Meanwhile, the guy in the beat-up van with a megaphone and a dream is cruising right past you, honking as he goes. You ever notice how the loudest person in the room usually knows the least? It's a universal rule. The people with real brains are sitting quietly, thinking, calculating, wondering if they've missed something. The ones without a clue. They're already talking, selling, promising, leading, and somehow winning. It's almost magical. Somewhere along the line, confidence became the currency of success, and intelligence got demoted to a part-time hobby. The people who know are unsure, and the people who don't know are unstoppable. It's like the universe got lazy and decided to reward volume instead of value. Smart people are cursed with self-awareness. They know what they know, and worse, they know what they don't. They walk into a room and think, let me double, check, make sure I've got my facts straight. Meanwhile, the guy next to them is saying, I don't need facts, I've got vibes. And the world listens to the one with vibes. Because confidence looks like competence, and most people can't tell the difference. It's a wild trick of human psychology. The more you know, the more you realize how little you actually understand. But if you know nothing, you think you've cracked the code of the universe. That's why every conspiracy theory has a guy with zero scientific background saying, trust me, I did my own research. Research, bro, you watch 2 YouTube videos and a TikTok. But he's so sure of himself, people start nodding. And there's your problem. Certainty beats truth, every time. In the workplace, this is even more painful. The smart person presents a cautious, well-thought-out idea backed by data, logic, and analysis. The confident fool walks in, slams his hand on the table, and says, we're going big, baby! Guess who gets the promotion? Not the one with the charts, that's for sure. The one who says, I've got a gut feeling, ends up in charge of the budget, while the person who actually has a brain ends up explaining why that gut feeling just cost the company 6 figures. Confidence is like a magic cloak that covers stupidity. Once you wear it, no one questions you. You can walk into any situation, say nonsense with enough passion, and people will call you a visionary. The less you know, the simpler your answers sound. And the simpler your answers sound, the more people believe you. Because the truth is complicated, and people don't like complicated. They want simple, quick, and loud. Smart people say, depends. Dumb people say, trust me. And trust me wins every time. The real geniuses of this era are not the scientists or thinkers. They're the salesmen. The world isn't run by the ones who understand how things work. It's run by the ones who know how to talk about how things work. It's not about content. It's about confidence. You can be a walking encyclopedia, but if someone with better posture and whiter teeth says the opposite, congratulations, you're now the intern. Smart people are cautious because they respect complexity. They know life doesn't fit neatly into slogans or PowerPoint slides. But stupid people, oh, they love certainty. They turn every problem into a yes or no answer and say it with a grin. And people love that. They find comfort in simplicity. Don't overthink it. They say to the person who's literally trying to think it through. That's the paradox of intelligence. You think too much to lead a world that doesn't like thinking. And then there's the modern job interview, a comedy show disguised as a hiring process. The smart candidate comes in prepared, articulate, honest. They admit weaknesses, explain processes, show caution. The overconfident one walks in, slaps the table, and says, my only weakness is I care too much. The interviewer laughs. They bond over coffee. And next thing you know, the company's new VP of operations doesn't know what operations even means. The smarter one, they get a polite email. We've decided to move in another direction. Yeah, that direction is straight off a cliff. Confidence is a performance. It's theater. The audience isn't looking for truth. They're looking for a good show. And stupid people give a great performance because they're not distracted by doubt or facts. They've got one script. I'm right. No evidence, no nuance, just conviction. And it works because conviction is contagious. When someone believes in themselves, people follow, even if that person is leading them right into a wall. Smart people are their own worst critics. They see all the cracks in their own arguments, so they hesitate, they analyze, they double check. But hesitation doesn't sell. You can't your way into power. The crowd doesn't cheer for the careful, they cheer for the confident. It's why the loudest, least informed voices dominate every platform. Turn on the news, scroll through social media. It's a parade of people who don't know anything but sound like they know everything. And the real experts, they're too busy trying to explain nuance to an audience that left 5 minutes ago because it wasn't entertaining enough. We live in a world that treats confidence like a credential. You don't need to be right, you just need to sound right. The one who says, I can fix it, gets the job, not the one who says, let's analyze it. The one who declares, I'm the best, gets followers, not the one who says, I'm still learning. Humility doesn't trend. Arrogance does. And that's how we end up being led by people whose only skill is pretending to have skills. It's even worse in politics. The smarter a politician is, the less likely they are to win. Because they use big words, they talk about trade-offs, they explain why problems are complicated. And voters don't want complicated. They want catchphrases. They want, yes, we can. Make it great again. Believe in me. No details, just energy. The confident fool can sell disaster as destiny if he says it with a grin and a flag behind him. Meanwhile, the thoughtful candidate gets drowned out by applause for a slogan. Smart people want to be accurate. Stupid people want to be loud. Guess which one gets airtime? Accuracy is slow. Noise is instant. And we live in the age of instant everything. People scroll faster than they think. The confident fool thrives in this chaos because confidence doesn't require research. It just requires a camera and an ego. You can literally go viral for being aggressively wrong as long as you're entertaining about it. Even in everyday life, the confidence conspiracy runs deep. Ever had a friend who gives terrible advice with total certainty? Quit your job, bro. Start a podcast. Invest in crypto. It's guaranteed. Don't worry, I Googled it. It's not contagious. They sound like prophets, but they're just loud amateurs. Meanwhile, your quiet, logical friend says, I'm not sure. We should check the data, and gets ignored because nobody wants to hear maybe. They want to hear definitely. Confidence is the ultimate mask. It hides incompetence so well that people start mistaking swagger for substance. The office loudmouth who interrupts every meeting isn't adding value. They're just filling air with ego. But the boss notices them because they take initiative. Meanwhile, the person who actually understands what's going on stays silent, knowing full well that speaking up means correcting the boss in front of everyone, and that's not how you get a raise. The irony is, smart people would actually make better leaders if they could just fake confidence like the stupid ones do. But they can't. They're too self-aware. They know enough to know they might be wrong, and that honesty doesn't sell. The dumb ones, on the other hand, never doubt themselves for a second. They could be wrong. They could be lying. They could be talking out of their elbow. But they'll say it like it's divine truth. And we'll believe them. Because humans don't follow truth. They follow conviction. You can see it everywhere. Business, politics, religion, social media. It's a giant talent show where logic never wins. The crowd doesn't want facts. They want fireworks. Smart people build rockets. Stupid people sell tickets to the launch. And somehow the ticket sellers end up richer than the rocket builders. The confidence conspiracy is self-sustaining. The loud and wrong get rewarded, which encourages more loud and wrong behavior. Meanwhile, the quiet and correct get punished, which discourages intelligence from speaking up. And that's how stupidity becomes policy. Because when everyone's afraid to look uncertain, the only voices left are the ones too foolish to realize they should be uncertain. It's tragic comedy. The world's best ideas die in whispers, while the dumbest ones roar through microphones. Smart people hesitate because they know the risks. Stupid people don't even see the risks. They charge ahead, break everything, and call it innovation. And somehow they get away with it, because they're confident enough to make failure look like strategy. That's the secret weapon of the stupid. Confidence without comprehension. They don't know what they're talking about, but they talk about it anyway. They don't plan, but they act. They don't analyze, they announce. And people love it, because people mistake decisiveness for wisdom. They'd rather follow a loud wrong answer than a quiet correct one. The confidence conspiracy has turned the world into a talent show for the clueless. The podiums belong to the bold, not the bright. The mics go to the mouths, not the minds. The stupid rule not because they're better, but because they believe they are. And belief, it turns out, is more powerful than knowledge in a world that worships certainty over truth. You ever notice how the people who are supposed to be in charge don't actually do anything? They just talk about things being done. They love meetings, memos, and mission statements, but if you ask them what they actually produce, it's usually confusion and coffee orders. The world runs on a bizarre puppet show called leadership, where the puppets think they're pulling the strings. The ones giving the orders are often the least qualified to understand the work being done. It's like watching a toddler direct traffic with a whistle and a juice box. They're confident, they're loud, and they have no idea what's going on. Leadership today is all about performance. You don't need to be smart. You just need to look like you are. You wear the suit, memorize the buzzwords, and nod at the right times. Synergy, innovation, alignment. All code words for, I have no idea, but I sound important. The modern boss doesn't lead teams, they lead PowerPoint slides. Their real talent is talking long enough for everyone else to forget the question. Meanwhile, the real work gets done by the people they ignore. The ones in the back, actually fixing the problems the leader caused last week. Every office has that one manager who calls a meeting to streamline communication. You show up, sit through an hour of nonsense, and leave with 2 new problems and 3 new spreadsheets. They don't solve issues, they multiply them. The person who built the system knows exactly how it works, but the one who supervises them doesn't even know where the on switch is. Yet somehow the one who can't operate the system gets to evaluate the one who designed it. It's like a fish being graded by a pigeon on how well it climbs trees. And these so-called leaders, they've mastered the art of delegation, which, in their language, means make someone else do it. You ever get that email that says, could you take ownership of this? That's corporate for, I don't want to be responsible if this fails. Leadership today isn't about guidance, it's about blame distribution. When something goes right, they say, we did it. When something goes wrong, they say, they didn't deliver. It's a beautiful system of selective accountability. You can always tell who's actually in charge of the real work by how quiet they are. The quieter someone is, the more essential they probably are. They're the ones who know how the engine runs while everyone else is arguing over the color of the car. The ones who actually understand the job are buried under layers of people who talk about the job. There's a whole ecosystem of middle management whose sole purpose is to justify their existence by creating obstacles and then pretending to solve them. Leadership has turned into theater. The boss isn't managing a team. They're starring in a show called Look How Boozy I Am. They strut around with tablets, attend strategy calls, and send motivational emails at 11 p.m. to look dedicated. But what do they actually produce? Not solutions. Just screenshots of progress reports they didn't write. It's all image management. Real intelligence makes things better. Fake leadership makes things look better. And you know the craziest part? They don't even feel guilty. They think they earned it. They sit in corner offices looking down at the floor of hardworking, exhausted employees and think, if they just had my vision, your vision, you couldn't find your car keys without asking your assistant. But the world rewards illusion. You just have to sound like a visionary. Add a few dramatic pauses, throw in the word transformation, and boom, you're a leader. It's not that they're evil, they're just skilled at pretending. They know the game confidence, charm, and plausible deniability. If something fails, they say, I take full responsibility, which means absolutely nothing. It's the corporate version of my bad. The statement costs them nothing, fixes nothing, and fools everyone. The people below them clean up the mess while they move on to a new department, a new title, and a bigger paycheck. The higher you go, the less you actually need to know. At the top, it's not about competence, it's about perception. It's about shaking the right hands, attending the right dinners, and knowing when to say, let's take that offline. The modern leader isn't a thinker, they're a translator. They take intelligent ideas, repackage them with motivational jargon, and present them as if divine inspiration struck during a morning jog. The ones who actually created the ideas are never in the room when the applause starts. And let's not forget the politicians, the ultimate example of leadership theater. These people spend their entire lives acting like they're solving problems while carefully avoiding any action that might actually solve them. They cut ribbons, make speeches, and shake hands like professional wedding guests. They talk about the people, like the people are some distant species they discovered on a safari. They don't rule because they're wise. They rule because they're willing to lie convincingly on camera. Everywhere you look, leadership is upside down. The people who should lead don't want the spotlight, and the people who crave the spotlight have no business leading. Real leaders would rather work quietly toward progress than spend their days taking selfies in front of it. But in a world obsessed with image, humility looks weak, and noise looks strong. The loudest person with the least plan wins. It's why every organization eventually starts to resemble a school play, full of enthusiasm, fake smiles, and forgotten lines. And it's not just corporations or governments. It's everywhere. Schools, startups, charities, even churches. The people who rise to the top are often the best self-promoters, not the best problem solvers. They know how to make people feel like something's happening, even when it's not. They weaponize optimism. They give speeches about vision while quietly outsourcing the work to people who actually understand the mission. They don't manage outcomes. They manage impressions. You can't even blame them completely. The system rewards style over substance. A genuine expert spends years mastering their craft. A fake leader spends years mastering the art of looking like they did. They're not paid for results. They're paid for reassurance. Their job is to make the people above them feel confident, not informed. Because the higher up you go, the less anyone wants to hear the truth. Truth is messy. Confidence is comforting. So the smart people get filtered out before they can complicate the narrative. It's a strange pyramid of power. The people at the bottom know everything but decide nothing, and the people at the top decide everything but know nothing. And the ones in the middle, their job is to translate between the two without making either side too uncomfortable. It's like a global relay race of ignorance. One department passes the torch of confusion to the next, and somehow the company still thinks it's making progress. You've probably seen it in action. The boss calls a meeting about innovation. They talk about thinking outside the box. Everyone nods politely. Then they end the meeting by saying, but let's stay within the company guidelines. It's innovation with a leash. You can dream, but only between 9 and 5, and only if it doesn't upset the quarterly report. Real progress scares them because it means losing control. And control, not creativity, is the true religion of leadership. The puppet masters aren't evil geniuses. They're just average thinkers in expensive suits. The real geniuses are the ones behind the curtain, making sure the puppets don't accidentally set the stage on fire. But no one claps for the curtain crew. They're invisible, underpaid, and exhausted. And the puppets, they're on magazine covers, giving interviews about visionary leadership. They're too busy rehearsing their next TED Talk to notice the people holding their strings are starting to fray. The irony is that smart people actually enable bad leadership because they care. They want things to work. They clean up the mistakes. They find solutions. They make it all function. Without them, the system would collapse. But because they're so good at fixing things, the system never collapses. It just keeps exploiting them. Leadership doesn't survive in spite of intelligence. It survives because of it. The smarter you are, the more problems you can fix. And the more problems you fix, the more problems bad leaders can afford to create. And when you look at history, it's always been the same. Kings didn't build castles. Pharaohs didn't build pyramids. Presidents don't write policies. CEOs don't invent products. The people at the top take credit for the work of the people at the bottom and then tell them to be grateful for the opportunity. That's not leadership, that's marketing. The only skill required is knowing how to appear in front of the camera just as the confetti falls. Leadership has become a performance art of pretending to know what's going on while making sure no one else realizes you don't. You can survive an entire career at the top by never making a real decision. Just form a committee, delay, rephrase, and rebrand. When in doubt, use the phrase, we're still evaluating our options. It's the universal code for we're waiting for someone smart to fix this quietly. And when they do, you'll thank them publicly, right before assigning them 3 more projects. And maybe that's why nothing ever changes. The same people keep running things, not because they're the best, but because they're the best at staying there. They've mastered survival, not leadership. They know how to navigate blame, not chaos. And because the smart people keep showing up, fixing things, and keeping the lights on, the puppets keep dancing. Because without the thinkers, the rulers would fall apart in seconds. But as long as the thinkers keep patching the holes, the show goes on. Same stage, same script, same clowns. So when you step back and look at it, the world is a perfectly orchestrated comedy of errors. The smart people are working tirelessly, building, fixing, and innovating, while the loud, confident, and often clueless ones are ruling, taking credit, and calling the shots. Intelligence gets buried under bureaucracy, effort is overshadowed by bravado, and real leadership is masked by performance. Yet despite all the absurdity, the system keeps moving, powered by the very minds it undervalues. It's a chaotic, hilarious, and frustrating cycle. The brilliant keep the world running, the bold keep it looking impressive, and the rest of us just try to survive in between. So next time you notice the puppet show called leadership, remember who's really pulling the strings. And maybe, just maybe, appreciate the quiet geniuses making it all work behind the scenes.